Every single day that I hop on Call of Duty, I get jump scared by the number of hours I have on the game on Steam since Modern Warfare 2 2022. This piqued my interest about the disgusting amount of hours I've put into Call of Duty throughout my entire life. It all started back in 2008 when I finally took a break from playing Halo 3 to try out a new game, Call of Duty 4. At first, I despised the multiplayer mode within the game, finding it difficult to see opponents, confusing, difficult to play in comparison to Halo. To this day, I'm not really sure what kept me coming back to play, but it began an addiction that I still haven't kicked. I ended up putting in about 3 days worth of in-game time into Call of Duty 4, which set the stage for my hype for the original Modern Warfare 2, which to this day is still one of my favorite eras of gaming throughout my life. I ended up playing 33 days of game time in Modern Warfare 2, which is my most played Call of Duty to date. Since then, I have played Call of Duty each year, which I figure I averaged about 17 days of in-game time in each of the next titles, with a total of 14 Call of Duties up until Modern Warfare 2 2022, in which my Steam counter started to count all of these hours that you saw. Plus, thousands of hours watching Call of Duty streams and watching tournaments. Majority of these hours have been streamed live over at twitch.tv/Tuttle for each of you to check out as we continue through Black Ops 6, Verdansk, and coming soon Black Ops 7 next year. Now you're probably asking yourself, was it worth it to invest this much time into a multiplayer video game? Because 10,000 plus hours is a ton of hours. When I was younger, I used to watch the likes of Crim6, Complexity, Nadeshot, Scump on Optic, we had Zuma, the Claysters, all of these players competing within Call of Duty. And I enjoyed watching their streams, watching their content, and watching these tournaments that they competed in, and how high the level of competition got and how fun it looked to become a champion. So because of this, I ended up getting into competitive Call of Duty and even attempted to play at some tournaments at the MLG level. Now, I'm sure you could tell how that turned out. I wasn't really cut from the same cloth as a lot of these players that are a lot higher skilled than I was. So we never made it anywhere near the professional level. But it was a great time, and I got to explore different cities around the country that I wouldn't have explored if I didn't go to these tournaments that were located in these cities. And along this journey of competing in Call of Duty, whether it was through wagers, online tournaments, or actually at LANs, I was able to meet a bunch of new people who I still call friends to this day, and I've built lifelong friendships with. The adrenaline rush from competing in COD is also so similar to that of sports. You get an opportunity to really feel that pride, that ego, all of these things that come with competition when you make a great play, and that really awful feeling in your chest when you have a rough day and end up losing but really want to come back and get better and just make sure that never happens again. So that was always a great time spent trying to get better at Call of Duty in a competitive sense. Learning to stream and record quality videos on Call of Duty has also led me to learn a lot about technology, PCs, how to stream and record from consoles, capture cards, and that curiosity eventually led me to the career that I am currently in. So I have Call of Duty to thank for that as well. So overall, I would say yes, it was well worth it. Although it is a sickening amount of hours, it's been a great time throughout the whole process. And of course, we were gaming, so what's better than that? Now, what does 10,000 hours of Call of Duty gameplay actually look like in multiplayer? So I hope you've been paying attention at least a little bit to the gameplay in the background, as we have just a public match, hardpoint match here. You know, I was just playing off stream, having a good time on some pubs, getting this TR2 semi-automatic marksman rifle leveled up. And as you can see, we were down by over 100 points in this public match hardpoint. And, you know, lo and behold, I kind of saw that scoreline. I was like, hey, maybe we could still do it. Maybe we could still make this happen. And we're going to go and bring out all the stops to see if we can make that happen throughout this match and try to prevent this team from winning, even though it's just a pub. And we're using some gun that we don't really use all that often. But 10,000 hours of COD makes movement and centering feel like a natural feeling rather than constantly thinking about where you're putting your crosshair, what kind of button combination you have to do to make a certain movement happen. It just happens a lot more naturally. That's why if you ever watch professional players or higher tier content creators play, it looks like they're not even trying, and it's still just immaculate gameplay. That level of gameplay comes a lot more naturally after putting so many hours into the game. That's why so many players say that really you just have to play the game to get a lot better. And there is a lot of truth to that, although there's a lot of different ways to improve as well that a lot of players do overlook. The next thing that kind of differentiates an experienced player versus a more novice player is that minimap spawns and intel from things like tacticals and nades or communications from your teammate really impact how you move throughout the map, whether you're going to stay a little more stagnant and play a power position, whether you're going to push up in order to influence a spawn for the next objective if you're playing some hardpoint or if you're playing control, and just how you're going to position yourself in order to take on the next gunfight, whether you think it's a good time to slide cancel and kind of ego chow out, or if it's a time to throw some shoulders and bait them into your teammates' crossfire so you can get a little bit of team shots. That's something that comes with experience. You're not going to know that right off the rip playing Call of Duty multiplayer. As for classes and settings, something that's become a little more complex over the last few years of Call of Duty compared to earlier Call of Duty around that Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty 4 timeline, things were a lot simpler. Now there's a lot of different settings, especially if you play on PC. And I do have a video that you can check out that'll be linked in a card up above if you want to check out those settings so that you can have a little simpler approach and not always be tweaking what settings you're using. And then, of course, the classes with something such as Gunsmith being added. There's 5 to 8 attachments usually every year on each gun. So you have to kind of have a basic knowledge of how these attachments work and what kind of pros and cons you're really looking forward for to make a good build. So with some experience, you can actually make a generally pretty good build off the start of the year. And then everyone kind of comes to a consensus on what the best builds are for these guns until certain updates nerf or buff other weapons. But you kind of get that general feel over a lot of hours on the game. As you can see here in the gameplay, our team is managing to make a rather significant comeback in this hardpoint game. And using that TR2, it's actually a very fun gun to use. You get a little bit of that FAL vibe from all the way back in Black Ops 2, which is probably the most notorious semi-auto gun throughout the Call of Duty lineage. It definitely has that feel, and it hits pretty hard if you get that headshot multiplier. Now please enjoy the rest of this Call of Duty Black Ops 6 gameplay and leave a comment down below with how many hours you think you have on every Call of Duty throughout your life.